Hello everybody, gentle people, friends. We're back in the Hideaway with a brand new track. With me today, I have some lovely hosts. I have WensleydaleCheddar.
Hello.
I have Grail9.
Hello.
And I have Dr. Nova.
Hello?
Nova's a bit lost. He's stumbling around the Hideaway.
Well, no, you see,
trying to get his bearings.
I just heard, and here I have, and then nothing. So.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing we're all recording this natively.
Yeah. So
comedic timing.
I was like, is there a mystery? Should I say Dr. Nova?
No, I did say your name. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right. So, before we get to the main topic, what have people been watching or reading?
Well, right now I'm reading the new chapters.
As someone who has not, can you give me a spoiler-free summary of your thoughts so far?
My Hero Academia was pretty good. Dr. Stone was pretty good, and Spy Family was great.
Right. Yeah. No. I have some vaguely hazy memories of something involving like vampires. Wensleydale. I don't know if you have the same thing.
Oh dear. Yes, that's right. So yesterday we finished the first season of Diabolic Lovers. The three of us, me, Hovin, and Asha, and I hardly remember anyone's name. I hardly remember what happened, and
the only reason I know some of the names is because I looked up a Wikipedia summary of what the fuck happened in the last episode. Because basically, it starts off as like a reverse harem about this girl going into a mansion, and there are all these sexy vampire boys who force themselves on her and drink her blood. So I guess if that's your jam.
Three of them look exactly the same.
Yeah, they look really similar. They have like very little variance in personality. And then at one point, I think she gets possessed by the ghost of their dead mother, and she's just like that for the last 3 episodes. And then I think one of them...
And she seduces like a couple of them?
Yeah, and then like one of them saves her by kissing her or something. Yeah, that's the gist of
by
it.
giving her a potion because she stabs herself. So that I don't know what that purpose was.
I was not expecting such a hugely complicated plot from this reverse harem. Not gonna lie.
I don't know why anyone in that anime does whatever they do.
I will give it one thing. It's a largely like not great looking show, but it has an absolute banger of a soundtrack in places. Like, it sounds like a really cool JRPG. It's the best way I could describe it. It gives me big Xenoblade vibes.
It is really amazing, and it's all the funnier that it has its most epic tracks in moments that don't really deserve them.
What about you, Nova? You've been watching anything noteworthy recently?
Honestly, no. Like, I can't really immediately think of like anything I've been like binging right now. I'm reading like the first chapter of something, like the new serialization chapter while we're talking about this, and I don't know, it's like a weird mix of like M0 and the One Punch Man webcomic.
The last week's Jumpstart, I was a lot more mixed on than most people. I think most people are overtly dislike it, which I get.
Oh, this isn't even the zombie one.
Are we
No, we're talking about the newer
Undead
one,
Unluck?
but I did bring up Undead Unluck, which I think is such a novel idea for a manga if it weren't for the awfully sleazy groping jokes, like, and like sexual assault jokes. Like, I really like the idea of like there's an undead guy and someone with unlucky powers, and they make a great duo, and the ways you can play with that. But yeah, it's all baked in a really, really bad sense of humor.
Yeah, and it's all the more shame because how the story unfolds is I really like how they do it. I really like how each of the new things is introduced, and how they talk about the powers, how they think about what can they do to create the most unlucky situation that will kill this guy, and there's two problems with that. If, in case you don't know, so the female character has a curse that whoever touches her, and the more intimately they touch her, well, she bestows her unluck on them. So the more intimately they touch her, the more unluckier they get. And there are two problems with that. One, okay, if she were just as into it as the zombie guy, it would be more tolerable to read. And the second thing is, Jump doesn't have an age restriction.
Yeah, that's the big one. It's just a real case of like this sort of material belongs in a strictly teenage-oriented or above magazine, late teens as well. On the other side of things, I have just caught up with Akdarj, and it's interesting. Because I went back and I listened to our episodes where we talked about this on StannerStream, and I was really negative on it at the start. But I've sort of gotten the gist of what the series is going for now. Because, for those who don't know, it follows this actress called Kei Yonagi, who has a form of method acting where she completely embraces that she draws on her own experiences for the role to the extent where she kind of forgets that she's playing the role. And at first, I criticized it for not being enough of an underdog story. And actually, I'm not sure that's really what it's going for. Like, it's not a terribly realistic portrayal of the acting industry, because she basically gets right into it with no problems whatsoever. She starts getting pretty big roles right from the get-go, which is like very rarely happens. You get a lot of rejection. It's more related to dealing with the dangers of that kind of acting, which is the central dramatic crux of it. They've been going in a very suspenseful direction with that, with the most recent arc, where the director she's working under for a play that she's in is taking some very extreme measures to draw an angry performance out of her, and it's not clear how she's going to work her way through the entire performance as a result. But yeah, that's my piece on it. I'm very curious to see what Chris and Nick don't like about it so much, because I haven't watched the Twitch stream, and they've adopted the Netflix model of releasing the backlog, so...
Do they not like it?
Chris said in a tweet that it's like the exact opposite of Chainsaw Man for him, where with Chainsaw Man he initially didn't like it, but it became one of his favourite things in Jump, and that this is the reverse of that. So,
Interesting.
I mean, I've listened to the episode, and I can mostly agree to disagree on this, but there is a point to his dislike of it that I can really understand, and to a certain extent I do share. It's mostly related to a shonen trope that appears all across the spectrum of shonen manga. It's the perpetuating the mentality of work yourselves to death, even if you have to sacrifice yourself, sacrifice everything for the sake of your dreams. In this case, for the sake of performance. And he just found it hard to suspend his disbelief at, particularly the Death Island arc, the one I hadn't read, because it's not in the backlog. That Kay and other actresses were throwing themselves off a cliff or something.
No, it is not a realistic portrayal of what the acting industry is like. I know this just as someone who is like seen interviews with actors, and I have a close family member who is trying to get off the ground as an actor. Yeah, it's nothing like how this manga portrays it, and that is a pill you have to swallow.
Yeah, it's just this mentality that I think he found grating, and I can pretty much agree with, while still enjoying the manga for what it is. That you as an actor have to sacrifice yourselves for the sake of the performance, to create an excellent performance. Yeah, at the same time, we have this in Jump. We also have Ashihara dying of back pain. Oda pretty much expecting an early grave at this point. A lot of overwork, suicide deaths in
They do
Japan.
lean into there being downsides to the way Yanagi acts, but it's not really relating to the overwork angle of it. It's more like the possible instability that her involved acting could bring to her mental state.
It's kind of a Rick situation, or Walter White situation, where you have a thing that you have a thing in the manga that you say it's self-destructive, but at the same time
I don't know. The most
romanticize
recent few chapters, it's not really been that kind of. I've gotten a much more sinister vibe from it, but.
Yeah, I guess I can get that. Yeah.
I haven't read it. I wouldn't know.
Anyways. To get on to stuff you have read, but let's go on to the main topic of this discussion, which is just media stuff that we just want to rant about. If Grail and Wensleydale come up with something, that's fine. But specifically, I believe Nova has a couple of bones to pick. Would you like to shed some light?
Yeah. Okay. So there's some tropes that constantly show up in modern shonen, and for the most part, they show up because of popularity, because they, have some sort of connection with Japanese audiences for one reason or another. And there comes a certain point for certain series where if they're not doing very well, then all they do is just dip into the tropes basket and see what they can do. And Mission Yozakura Family, which to start, personally, I'll just to say where I stand on this, I never really loved the series to start, mostly because those who know me know that my biggest thing in any single series is characters, and maybe this is a hot take, but Mission Yozakura Family, I think, is the worst characters in Shonen Jump right now, personally.
I'm trying to think of shows with characters that I don't like.
Worse than Mr. Harmful.
It's not currently in Shonen Jump.
Well, that's not running anymore.
I'm not saying in Shonen Jump history, I'm saying in the magazine right now.
Oh, see.
Yeah. No, hey, cross account is its own category. We can't if this was the Oscars, this is a category up into its own.
Speaking of, you should definitely check out Wensleydale's most recent video. Cross account is garbage, and here's why. It's a very good watch.
It's very good.
It's a patron milestone, and thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, that was a great video from you. And well, I was off by 10 minutes in my guess. I thought it'd be 32 minutes.
Sorry, you're saying, Nova?
I just found out of all the plays in Shonen Jump, Mission Yozakura Family just easily has the worst. I think Taiyo is awful. I think he's criminally boring. I think there's nothing that separates him from any other characters. Mutsumi is basically just has the personality of sandpaper. And Koichiro, who is the other lead, is just so phenomenally there's no depth to this character. There's no depth to any of these characters.
That's the older brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so for context, Mission Yozakura Family is about this this boy who essentially is forced to marry into this family of spies, and all of the wacky hijinks that he gets up to with that. The initial run is him committing to training to be a better spy, and just kind of embracing this role, even though he was thrust into it. And then it becomes a lot more comedy hijinks with each of the various family members, or maybe someone else who has the hots for Mutsumi or him. And I think when it started to go into that, I fell off it. Is it still doing that sort of thing?
It's still that, but it's fallen into even more unfunny tropes. The basically, just about every chapter has started to follow the same line, is that, Taiyo's doing this absolutely insane bout of training, and then, some seemingly normal situation gets messed up by a bunch of spies showing up, and then Taiyo gets, hilariously beaten up, or Taiyo gets hilariously embarrassed and stuff like that. And at a certain point, it's just not funny, it's just kind of strange. Because the series has one way it likes to make you laugh, and it's, hey look, Taiyo's life is a living hell.
I had a similar problem with early Reborn.
Yeah. Thinking on the matter, I think this series would be much improved if we took Taiyo out of the equation completely and just had Mutsumi as the straight man. Just she's got used to yes, this is my family, I wish it was anyone else, but this is what I'm having to live with. And everyone else is the wacky character on the side. Just take Tayo out completely. Might improve things.
The thing is, I kind of liked Tayo in the early chapters because I did really enjoy his drive and his grit to, like, improve as a spy. What I wasn't as keen on is the fact that he just gets super good at it right away.
Here's the thing, though. It seems like he does, but the series is in a constant state to try and tell you that he's awful at everything. And what's weird happening in the current arc is that we're literally already repeating a storyline we've done before, because, like, the Shonen Jump playbook says that this is how you have to write these arcs. Because, like, the first arc that we had in this series was that this person showed up to try and, like, kidnap Mutsumi, and then Tayo tried to fight them, got completely defeated, and everyone just showed up. It's like, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak. Can you really protect Mutsumi? Which, by the way, that's the catchphrase of the entire fucking series. But, and then we started the most recent arc, and with the exception of kidnapping Mutsumi, it's exactly the same. Is Tayo shows up, there's this other guy who shows up who completely destroys him, and then everyone's like, Tayo, you're so weak, you need to get stronger, you're so weak, and he's like, I am so weak, I have to get stronger. And so, like, but we just did this.
Again, if it, like... Because I know it's tricky, because manga never know if they're just going to get cancelled right away and they want to hook people, but I do wish they'd gone with a slower burn on it, where he's not great at it right away, but he nails some of the basics of being a spy. And he's, like, slowly improving, but again, it's... Yeah, this series sounds like it's been in a constant state of flux, battling its lack of popularity, so, yeah.
Yeah, regarding what you just said, it's really similar to Black Clover in that it's pretty hard to gauge the character's abilities in this.
Here's what I would say, though, and this is going to sound weird to say. The Black Clover characters are more memorable. Like, they're not a lot of them are great, necessarily, but I can name more personality out of the Black Clover characters than I can from anybody in this series. Because there's more of a palpable dynamism to Black Clover, and that's why I think it got popular, is regardless of what you can say about the writing style, and there's a lot you can say about it, there is, at the very least, a lot being put into the series, even if it doesn't always turn out
It has a lot of gusto.
Exactly. Like, and that's not nothing. I wouldn't say. I would say, like, a series with a lot of gutso, a series with a lot of almost kineticism to it. That is a plus. That is a good part of the series that I can't take away from it. There is nothing like that in Yozakura Family. It is flaccid and uninteresting, and just in a constant state of desperately trying to move up to the next gear, but it can't. It's just kind of always in this, like, 1 mile an hour cruise.
Yeah, the big thing about it is that it's going nowhere, where just spinning its wheels in one place. Because there's like been one kind of arc, and otherwise just weekly hijinks that really don't vary it up enough to justify anything. There's no evolution.
And it's also like... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
There's no evolution, there's no change. It feels like there's nothing to look forward to next week.
And what's also weird is that, like... Okay, the moment I realized I hated this series was opening up chapter 20, where it's just like another, like, how did Tayo get in this situation? But it's one of the most uncomfortable fucking things I've ever seen. Where, like, for some reason, like, you open up the chapter, and for some reason, Koyoshiro has, like, Tayo tied up in this weird, like, S&M thing. Where he's, like, floating over some candles, and he's got a ball gag for some reason, and it's kind of gross. And it's also just strange, because, like, they're trying to have this dramatic moment of, like, this happened because, you know, you're so weak and you have to understand failure. And it's like, but that's every chapter of this series. And not only does the actual dramatic part of this moment not show up at all, A, because of the actual situation that he's in, but also just because you always do this. Like, the mangaka always does this exact same thing for every single moment. And then the chapter just came out today, chapter 21, and they introduce, and as I was reading this chapter, I was like, I'm gonna try to guess exactly what happens before we do, because they walk up to this new cafe, and I'm gonna be like, okay, something's gonna happen in this new cafe that B's like, oh no, this is like a life-threatening situation, hope you can survive. And then the new character's gonna show up, and they'll be like, can you really protect Mutsumi because you're so weak? And that's exactly what fucking happened. They're like, this cafe's a secret, like, military facility, and then Mario Leona from Black Clover shows up. And she's like, you suck, you can never protect Mutsumi, you'll never be the Wizard King.
It's the crossover we never thought we wanted, because we didn't. So I understand you've also got some issues with the recent Samurai 8 goings on.
I think everyone has the same issues with Samurai 8 right now, which is just that...
Yeah, it's doing pretty damn poorly in Japan. It's placing below literally every other Jump series, I think. Maybe not including some of the other failed Jump starts. It's... Yeah, so those who aren't aware, because not a lot of my friends that are casual manga fans read this.
Yeah, that's like me. Like, I stopped. Why are you guys still reading this?
I actually dropped it after chapter 34 because that was so fucking infuriating to me.
But yeah, no, it's the new manga by Masashi Kishimoto of Naruto fame, and it's about this crippled boy who gets the ability. He gets a new body to become a samurai, and samurai in this universe are like space cyborgs. And it's this big, sprawling sci-fi epic with loads and loads and loads and loads of lore. And so much of the first 13 chapters was just explaining things about the world and not, like, showing it as it became relevant to the story, which I hate. So I stopped watching. Stopped reading, rather.
Well, good news. The newest chapter, it's all exposition.
Nice.
At least I think so. My eyes started to glaze over.
What was crazy was that, like, reading chapter 34 and... Alright, so there are a couple of reasons people aren't huge into Samurai 8, but here are 3 that I've heard probably the most. One is that there's way too much exposition, and the exposition isn't interesting. Because they're constantly, like, saying new rules for this world and no rules for the samurais, and none of them are interesting. They're just sort of, like, either re-establishing things we've already heard before, or just establishing, like, weird new rules to, like, how these samurais work that there's only been a little over 30 chapters, and already there's, like, an encyclopedia knowledge of how you have to, like, understand, well, samurai can do this, and samurai can do this, and real samurai can do this, and they also need this.
Yeah, compare that to Naruto, where we just know ninjas can perform magic. That's it. Like, we don't need to get all the details about how chakra works and all. We just know that they use this special energy to use magic. End of story. And then you could slowly add on to that, like the stuff that you can walk on trees with it, or how you control it, and the special types. They could do that, but with time. But there was the solid premise of ninja magic. Got it.
And what's so crazy about it as well is that, like, as the more and more you read Samurai 8, it's hard to believe that this is the person who wrote Naruto, because this is, and as this, we all used to sort of moderate a writing forum, so we can add for this. This is how unseasoned writers write storylines, in the sense that they have what they think is like a really cool, really interesting idea, and instead of letting it play out, they're like, oh, I have to let everybody know how it works, like, right now. Like, everybody has to understand how it works, because it's so cool, it's so awesome, and everyone's going to be so excited when they find out. They're like, this is so interesting. And I'm the writer, and I'm so excited about it. I want to tell you about all of it right now. And, that's how unseasoned writers right? Because they don't understand that like a huge exposition dump at the beginning is actually more intimidating to a reader.
Yeah, it's like if Hunter x Hunter started with the levels of exposition it has in its current arc, I wouldn't bother with it.
Or even just like they start immediately going to Nen and all the intricacies of making of the power being more powerful when it has a specific purpose, or all the different types, how it's unlocked and stuff. If they did that in the first 20 or 30 chapters, it would have been a fucking bore. But by that point, you already had the reader invested, and you had a reason to see these powers in use, because they used it on people we already knew.
It's also like if in One Piece they felt the need to explain all 3 types of devil fruits and fishmen and all the different types of hockey and the 6 powers and all these sword styles and stuff like that. Like, all of these individually are cool, but if we were just front-loaded with all of them right at the beginning, it would have been too much. And there's just a general... Okay, this is going to sound like a weird criticism to say, but it just sort of hit me in the most recent chapter, is there is just a general lifeless lack of humanity to the series. Where...
It's like, we had like one... Over the 13 chapters I read, there was like one moment where I felt like the series really had some heart, and it was when basically the guy who was taking care of him, his past is revealed, and he has like a very emotional scene with Hachimaru at the end of an arc. I'm like, it would have been nice if we had this in chapter 1. Yeah.
But even then, like, the fact, like, again, okay, maybe this is just because this is Shonen Jump, and there's just been a trend of not really letting moments dwell within the reader's mind a lot. But finishing off after, like, the death of his father, Hachimaru is just instantly the same character again, and like, there's not really as much of a solid change to him, and he doesn't really reference back to the death of his father except for like 2-second flashbacks every now and then. So it didn't really seem to affect him in any particularly meaningful way. But it's the most recent chapter that's just sort of made me realize, like, what is this series? Because to let you know what happens through this chapter, so other than like just catching up with like Hachimaru and Sanda and Sen the Silent, who never stops talking, we cut to this entirely new planet where we see these 2 new characters who we've never seen before, which this is the second thing that a lot of people have had an issue with for Samurai 8, which is that there's just constantly like, here's this other new character, aren't they cool? And it's like, no, none of these are cool, and you haven't like made me care about the core cast yet. So I don't really care that there are these other like cool 4 samurais who are gonna go like take out the Death Star. Because I don't even know if they have names.
Yeah, plus Kishi's with female characters started at the bottom where he was with Naruto at the end, rather than where at least the best parts.
So we're on the planet, and there are like these 2 new samurai, and then we cut to this little girl who I guess is just like a nihilist, and it's like, okay, I don't know what the big issue is with them. And so then we established that like, oh, this is a very, very happy planet, and then we cut to the samurai kidnapping the little girl, and then we cut to like, what's his face, like the evil villain dude from before who fires Rubik's cubes at the planet that make it explode.
They're like, fuck, we can't solve this, and then their brains, their collective brains malfunctioning makes the planet blow up.
Yeah, so the entire planet blows up, and the little girl's gone, and one of the samurai's like, hey, little girl, that was the planet you were on, and the little girl, because I guess they didn't want to save her mom, she like cries like, hey, my mom's dead. And immediately this guy's like, wait, I know your mom's dead, but hold up, I'm this cool new jackal-headed character, and don't be afraid. I'm a samurai, and we saved you for a very good reason. And he's smiling like this is a cool moment, and I'm like, her mom's dead. And the entire planet is dead. And
because when I stopped reading it, he'd just had a fight with like a really big deal samurai who just came down on an asteroid, From what I understand, after that there was like a tournament arc or something.
Yeah. There was like a weird tournament arc for a while where these two other characters were introduced, and then it turned out one of them was evil, then it turned out one of them wasn't evil, and they had to defeat this guy named Benkei who, like, lost, but then he didn't lose, and he became part of a Death Star, so we had to invade the Death... It was really long. So that's just finished. And we're immediately, like, cutting to something else apparently really big that's happening, introducing 3 brand new characters who I don't really care about. But it's just the moment where, like, not only has an entire planet just blown up, but also, you know, this little girl's mother has died as well because she was on the planet. And immediately, not even a panel passes before, like, there's this guy who shows up and he's smiling and looking all cool. It's like, don't worry, we saved you for a very good reason. It's like, why is a planet blowing up something that we don't care about in this universe? Like, it's just so strange to establish that, like, okay, yeah, the villains just committed, like, genocide to an entire world, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Everyone's like, oh, but this new character is cool. It's like, billions of people just died.
I am going to be very interested to catch up on this when it eventually gets cancelled. To see how it plays out in a more concentrated burst. I might do an episode of this on it.
You know, guys, we've been so negative, so how about we talk something fun for now? Something that all of us love. Spy Family.
Aw, yeah.
Like, first of all, just a little mention, Jeff Ruberger just tweeted out that Spy Family hashtag on Twitter has a little Anya emoji.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's so cute. And so was this week's chapter. Well, this week's chapter wasn't cute, but it was damn compelling. Like, did you already get a chance to read it?
I'm interested to read it. The arc has been it's been quite it's put Anya in a rather tough position. So
I love this series because, like, Spy Family has very, like, serviceable art for what it is, but there's no series that does, like, the moment before somebody's about to get hit better than Spy Family, because there was a moment last chapter where, like, they were about to attack Anya, and just in the background, you just see Yor, like, shooting through the air, like, her leg bent behind her.
It's such a good panel.
It just looks so freaking cool. And it's just one of those moments where, like, no matter what position you're in, you just want to yell, oh, fuck yes! Like, as she's sewing up. Because sometimes the art in Spy Family is very good, sometimes it's, you know, just serviceable, but no one else in the entire magazine, like, does that moment better.
Yeah, and then the moment where she just kicked him, like, 3 different surfaces. Like, that guy should be dead.
Yeah.
I like to do a thing where it's like the manga finishing derby, where I try and predict which manga are going to finish in which order.
Oh, I can help you with that one.
And I'm like really curious, like, which order are Promised Neverland, Haikyuu, and what's the other one? Seven Deadly Sins going to end in?
I didn't actually know Haikyuu was ending.
Well, no, it's on its last arc.
Okay.
Yeah, like, it's clear that there's not going to be more after this, because this is kind of like tournament few years after high school.
Oh,
Are we
okay.
gonna add? Are we gonna add? We Never Learned to that.
Oh yeah, of
since
course,
this
of
also
course,
seems to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
then
kinda just dropped
yeah,
talking
I
about
could add
Spy
Demon
Family.
Slayer, but I know none of you guys read that, so.
Yeah, I tried reading it, but its pacing was really weird, so I couldn't get into it. Like, it would jump between chapters without really establishing where or how long it was between them.
Well, if any of you listening to it in the future want me to read Demon Slayer, you can drop me a buck on Patreon and I'll do a whole retrospective on it. Oh boy.
Do it.
But yeah, back on Spy Family, because there's one pretty damn compelling scene where the head spy lady just lays into the revolutionaries who want to start the war with the dog bombs. Like, I could just live read this shit like, Have you ever had a limb torn off by an artillery shell? Have you ever heard the sound of bone shattering? Have you ever smelled the reek of rotting flesh? Have you ever found the crushed bodies of your parents and siblings in a pile of rubble that used to be your home? Have you ever discovered a blown-off piece of your lover stuck to a wall? Have you ever been so hungry that you tried to eat tree bark? Have you ever stewed human flesh in a pot? Have you ever convinced yourself your enemy was subhuman so you could slaughter them like animals? Have you ever been so haunted by shame and regret afterward that you cried until you puked? Have you ever had your friends who did the same and took their own lives? Did you learn nothing about war at your university?
I know their hands are tied, but like she finishes the rant and one of them like slowly holds up a Karl Marx book and to be like, but disprove this.
Alright, BAM!
It's like,
Have you learned nothing about sharing?
Nova.
Yeah, no, Spy X Family it's a really tight, enjoyable series. I can see why it's doing so well. Because yeah, it's been selling overwhelmingly well in Japan as well. Any case, I think that covers all the topics I wanted to talk about. Do you guys have anything else?
Well, I would say a surprisingly good manga, which I did not really expect to make a turnaround. Boruto.
Oh yeah, no, the most
Really?
recent arc of that has been quite enjoyable.
Yeah, because the last few chapters have been like this World Trigger-esque fight, where the Team 7 made of Mitsuki, Boruto, Sarada, and Kawaki is going up against a foe who is just in every way stronger than them, so only by using strategy and teamwork have they been able to do anything against him.
I think the thing for me, and I'm not going to voice this as a criticism of Boruto, because this is a personal thing for me. A villain who can just instantly regenerate is the most boring thing in the world to me. Like, I don't know why, it's just something that, like, never really strikes a chord with me at all. So, for me, it's actually been really, really hard for me to get into this fight, even though I acknowledge that it is pretty well done. Just because anything where it's like, oh, you can do all this damage, but it won't hurt me, so you'll have to find, like, the way to make my not hurt thing not work, and then you can hurt me.
I would agree with you if they don't do anything else. Like, I like Marco and his healing powers in One Piece.
Which I would say that's good for, but I would also say that, like, that's a little bit different because in One Piece they've already established a way for that not to work, which is hockey.
And the sea.
Yeah, the sea, hockey, sea stone, all that stuff. And I think that works in that sense because there's sort of universal rules that work. And I'm not even saying that this doesn't work, because I think that is the direction that Boruto is going in, this more sort of high-tech and, you know, a bit more nebulous way of going through it with the scientific ninja tools that they have now. So I'm not saying as a criticism, but I am sort of saying that, like, that's why I'm not particularly high on it, is I just find villains who can sort of instantly regenerate a little bit boring. It's why I didn't like, I think, like, the last 3 fights in Naruto, because all of them were like that.
I mean, with that, it was just a case, for me, of boring staging. They're very repetitive, they repeat the same beats over and over again, and the actual tactics involved aren't particularly interesting. And, like, I've been really enjoying this return to a more tactical approach, like in early Naruto, with this current fight. And, I don't know, it's sort of like a Zelda boss, and I really like Zelda bosses, so...
Yeah, I don't give a shit about the villain here, but just seeing these guys working together against a foe that's well beyond their means. That's the shit I enjoyed in the war arc so much, invasion arc in World Trigger so much more.
But again, though, I think, I don't know, maybe it's also that the setting is a little bit boring, and I understand that, like, the point is we've sort of been transported to, like, this other world, but, I don't know, just something about, like, oh, here we are in, like, an endless desert, and we just finished up like a huge fight in the same extremely boring desert.
I think
like I don't know,
think for
something about
me,
the setting.
Desert.
Naruto's always had quite uninteresting backgrounds generally, except for the village hidden in the rain, which was freaking awesome. Yeah,
I can't even
but
remember
then,
that place.
Yeah, I think for me, Boruto is just inherently, from its conceptions, quite a redundant series. It's like it's a finished story, and this is only really sort of adding on to the awkward moon people stuff in terms of the lore. So it's more of a I'll take what I can get from it, but you know, I'm not massively invested.
I think that is part of the thing for me, is that like, out of all the things we could have like based the new villains around Naruto, we based them around the worst villains in Naruto.
Also, I do think there's like some kind of, between the people who wrote the Boruto movie, which the first arc of the manga is based on, and the mangaka now, I feel like they wrote Naruto in very different ways. Because basically, the movie version of him just grew up to be a really neglectful father. And also the anime version of him never told Boruto who Jiraiya was. Like, I don't...
Really?
No, he didn't know. And, like, discovered him for the first time, I think, in a recent arc filler, or the whole thing is basically filler, but a recent arc where he travels back in time to meet Naruto when he was young. The Boruto anime sounds a bit wild, and not in a great way.
Though I did see one great, like, shot for it where Sasuke, the older one, has to admit he reads Makeout Paradise, and he's a big fan.
I do like that they've been more up for dunking on Sasuke in the anime. Something they should have been doing for much longer, but we had to wait until he was a dad for it. Yeah, I think, but yeah, no, and then like in the most recent arc, Naruto is actually acting like how a grown-up version of Naruto should act. Like, this seems to make a much more sense given what we know about him.
You know what other manga there is that kind of made a turnaround?
What?
Mitama Security Spirit Busters.
Okay.
Really?
What?
I don't think I actually read the first chapter of that.
I read the
Please tell me
first
it's like
chapter and, well, I read part of the first chapter. I didn't even finish it.
Please tell me
Oh, no,
it's
yeah.
like turned into like a battle manga and the art is like at One Punch Man level now.
No, but it's got much funnier. At first, the humor in this was I found terrible, but now I'm not gonna say much about it, but because you know the facts drop in and out of my head. But now it's at a point that I consistently get a few good laughs at least from each chapter, and I especially like how they sometimes manage to subvert those tropey expectations you get. Like, we have a chapter when Renahaze, the high schooler that Mitama protects, has to take care of him while he's sick, and also her spirits start taking care of him, and also another colleague drops in, and they all get to a point when you would expect some speech, how they all care about Mitama, but then they all just start dunking on each other, and it's actually written super well.
Okay. That manga might actually stick around, because it's not been tanking in the rankings like the other recent new series have. So yeah, I might check it out sometime.
Now they're having a baseball match using spirit orbs and having basically there is a character in that can't see spirits but is excellent at fighting them. Essentially, he's in a team with a bunch of spirits, and he's trying for a few chapters, trying to pretend like this doesn't affect him until he finally snaps. I'm not telling this very well now, but I love the execution of this.
So yeah, I think with that said, I think that does us for today. So in terms of like future episodes, I'm thinking there's One Piece Stampede is coming out soon. If I can wrangle Castor into watching that, maybe we can finally have him on this podcast, which would be nice.
I also love to watch that as well, because I haven't seen
it
it
would be
yet.
nice, but I got no means of watching that.
So it might just be a 2-person job, that one.
I haven't seen it yet. I've got to check out.
If not, I'll probably do another Hideaway ramble for it, because I'm sure I'll have lots of thoughts. And so if anyone has anything to plug, would they like to?
I have one, though it's still gonna be a little bit. So soon I'll be recording the first 3 episodes of the Bard's Tale podcast. The idea of it is it's 3 continuous stories that are all about... Each episode is about 15 minutes long, so the idea is you can kind of listen to it before bed as a bedtime story, or maybe like before work or something like that. So those will be coming out pretty soon. The idea is that each episode, each story will continue onward. There'll be 3 to start, and then maybe once in a while, similar to Shonen Jump, I'll do a one-shot for like another one, and if people are interested on that, I'll keep it going. And we'll just see where it goes. Unfortunately, they'll have no set schedule, but they will come out probably as quickly as I can. But yeah, we'll work it out, and hopefully it'll be a nice thing people enjoy.
If you need voice acting for it, do let me know.
I think I probably will eventually go in that direction if it turns out to be... This is going to sound weird to say, but if it turns out to, sort of be worth the time investment, where, right now they're just going to kind of be voice forward, but if, there ends up to be an audience of sort, then I'll get more into, like, people voicing specific characters and editing them, and maybe even adding sound effects and stuff like that.
Okay.
But,
so you said it was called Bard Quest?
The Bard's Tales.
Okay, good. I was just gonna say, like, that. If it was Bard Quest, I'm like, Andrew Hussey might have some words.
Yeah, I don't know what the Bard's Quest is. But...
It's one of the earliest MS Paint adventures, which is the series that eventually spawned Homestuck. So.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, MS Paint, which is funny because I've read the series he's done before Homestuck, but not Homestuck. So I've read the thing that basically no one's read. I guess we're getting back into a discussion, but like, essentially what it's called Problem Sleuth, and it has a similar format to early Homestuck, where basically the audience inputs what the characters do next. So it's like a game, but like as a webcomic. And it gets very surreal, and it's sort of it's very chaotic and formless, and doesn't really have, like... It's split into chapters, but they're just basically after the fact, like, it's just one continuous sort of escalating situation. But yeah, no, that sounds really interesting, Nova. Like, I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah, I'm excited to get the first 3 episodes out, hopefully in the next coming weeks.
Nice. And Wensleydale, what about you?
Alright, so you can find my stuff on youtube.com/c/WensleydaleCheddar. I do video essays, and in the near future, since I've got to catch up on a shit ton of Jumpstart's vlogs on manga. And you can follow me on Twitter at WensleydaleCheddar, and also if you want to... if you want me to read Demon Slayer or things, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/WensleydaleCheddar, I think is the address. Yeah.
Grail, you got anything?
Not really. Yeah, I've been trying to work on videos, but I always just lose motivation, so...
Right. If people want to follow you on Twitter...
Then that's just @NuclearAndroid.
And, for me, you probably got to this via my Twitter, but I am @Hovin with an H on Twitter, where I just ramble about manga for the most part. I hope to have more content coming out soon. It'll probably either be a podcast or a ramble about the upcoming about the One Piece movie, due to its UK release date coming soon. So yeah, look forward to that. All right. So with that, I bid you goodbye, dear listeners. I hope you enjoyed yourselves.
Cheerio.